This video is about managing extreme anger and frustration and some really difficult symptoms. So, if you have tried a few other things and nothing has worked, then this is the video for you, because I'm going to be going into a bit deeper detail than usual, and but as usual I always say, speak to a professional because they can customize it to suit you individually. So a lot of people will Google anger management, look on YouTube and hear about schema therapy or doing visualization and meditation, but you know, there's often a bit more to it than that. Sometimes people try so many things, including diet changes, because if you have intolerance to certain things or don't sleep well, it can increase your levels of irritability so much that you can lose it too easily and be very frustrated with your own behavior. And other times that still doesn't work, and some people unfortunately end up having to resort to speaking to a psychiatrist and getting medicated so that they can manage their basal level of frustration. Usually though, we can, in the long term, maybe if that has to happen for a short term, but in the long term we can usually make lifestyle changes, communication changes, and move forward. So today I'm going to be talking about this from an adult perspective. Obviously, this can be modified for your children, and if you are going to do that, then I will point out a few things along the way of how to do that. And but still, you would probably need or want to know this full detailed explanation so that you have the justification and reasoning as to why I'm going down this path and how that can best apply to you. So with anger, it's about fight or flight. A lot of you have probably heard of that before. Fight, flight, freeze. So with the flight is the passive response, where you just want to get out of there and run away. And then the freeze can also be a passive response. And all of these, and the fight, of course, we all know about, unfortunately. That's why you're here. So, of course, all of these things are inbuilt subconscious mechanisms that are there to keep us safe and stop lions and tigers and bears from getting us. But there's none here in our Australian outback, so don't worry about that with me not looking behind me. So, it is an automatic response. It is sometimes a subconscious learnt behaviour, but it is a biological thing, and these chemicals kick in which actually shut down your frontal lobes, and we behave then like an animal. The rest of the brain that is active once the other parts have been shut down are the survival mode parts of the brain. That's why we make decisions that we're not happy with later, because they're usually fairly selfish natured decisions that our body has influenced us to make. Some short-term immediate reactions to try and quickly solve the problem and get out of there. And obviously we want to change that, and to change an automatic response, the only way is practice. Either reducing your basal level of frustration through sleeping better, better diet, more relaxation, and or then looking at how you can train yourself to respond differently. So, how do you do that? Well, a lot of people will already have heard of mindfulness, meditation, visualization, neuro-linguistic programming, self-hypnosis. They've all got a lot of similarities. And some of those things can be a bit frustrating if you look them up online. You'll find that there's these accents you're not used to. They suggest visualizations that just aren't your thing. Like maybe they say you can, imagine calming down by rowing a boat out into a lake. Some people are afraid of being out on a lake, so. Or they might tell you to imagine walking through a field of flowers, and maybe you drive trucks for a living and that's just not your thing. So I want to talk about the mechanisms underlying these things that are most helpful so that you can customize these kind of routines to work for you. What I would be wanting to do if I'm wanting to change my angry responses to things is to set aside some time each day, just for a couple of minutes, and we really want to try things for about 66 weeks, not 60, so as we can get a new habit formed and start to see some positive change. So in that time, maybe it's as I'm going to bed or on my way to work in the morning, I'll take a few deep breaths and relax my body. Taking in deep breaths gives you more oxygen, so it calms you, just like when you see the ambulance attender scene, they give people an oxygen mask because extra oxygen calms us down. Taking shallow breaths or sharp breaths reduces the oxygen, increases the carbon dioxide, increases the stress and frustration. So we're getting our body into a calm state by breathing deeply and also relaxing the body. If I'm sitting here hunched over with my shoulders bent in, I'm squashing up my heart and lungs. I've used plenty of biofeedback machines over the years, and I know that as soon as I roll my shoulders back and start taking the deep breaths in that manner and relax my body, straight away you can see the biometrics, or the heart rate and the amount of electrical responsivity in your skin, which is a reflection of how much activity there is in your mind. You can see those things reduce straight away. So it's a really powerful way to get us into that, and that's why they recommend that in the meditations. Then the next step in those visualization meditations, they'll often tell you to do a thing that's we call progressive muscle relaxation. It can be very successful. It can also be a little bit long-winded, and I find people can get bored of doing it. So I'll just give you a little shortcut. You can look it up in some more detail if you like, but basically, we're trying to get rid of residual tensions in our body. If I'm frustrated through the day, I'll find that my jaw might be tense, and I might have a slight fist starting to form there, and I might carry that home with me at the end of the day. So, as I take in a deep breath, I'll tense that up and release it. I might start at one end of my body and tense up and release, and then my shoulders and release. And I'll work through a couple of times, working down my body to make sure everything's as calm as it can be, as if my body's being pulled down by lead weights and sinking down into the ground like a sack of sand. Once I'm starting to get more relaxed, then I'll just move on to the deep breathing, and then I'll start to focus my mind on something relaxing, using all 5 senses where I can, so as to shift our mind to a point where you don't have space to think about other things that are frustrating you, and you're really clearing your head, getting ready to focus on this, creating a new automatic reaction to a situation that would cause frustration and anger. So I like to imagine personally walking along the beach. I like that one. And I might imagine the sound of the waves, the breeze, the birds flying by, the image of the waves coming in and crashing and how that changes with every moment. The sounds of people in the distance, maybe ships across the horizon, and whatever else I can to fill up my mind with the scent of the air, the taste of the ocean spray. And as I'm really filling in all these details, they call it a visualization, but you don't really technically visualize what's going on. You're just imagining it in as much detail as possible. And don't let it get too boring, so you can switch it up into something else. Sometimes I imagine sailing on a boat or walking through the bush. And then once you've got your mind a bit calmer, or at least distracted from your other frustrations, then I will think of a situation that could frustrate me. So maybe that's if I'm coming down the road and another car's coming up beside me and they cut in. Now, obviously, like any other person, I'm going to think, oh my God, you could have killed me. And you can have that. I'm going to feel the frustration and stress, and maybe a little bit of fear kick in there. Going, oh, gee, I've got to act here, press on the brakes, and keep myself safe. And a lot of us would be tempted to hit the horn or flick the lights. But now that I'm exemplifying this situation, I'll start to imagine those thoughts and those feelings that, maybe I'll get the heat in the ears. That's a symptom that not a lot of us notice, but is often there. The tension in my jaw. You know, it's really, if you think about it, all the little tiny symptoms that's happened is basically like a monkey going crazy, going "Rah!" So as we start to acknowledge the feeling that we're having those emotions and those symptoms in our body, you know, it is a chemical reaction. Our body releases adrenaline and causes all these things to happen. So you may not notice it at first, but now that I've said it, really start to pay attention, speak to your loved ones and friends and get them to tell you, you know, do you see any of these symptoms or anything else that I can use to detect when I'm starting to lose my control of my emotions and get into that space where I do things that I don't want to do and be the person I don't want to be. Because once you're getting a better sense of that, a bit better detection system, then you can start to imagine, still in our relaxed state of breathing calmly and sitting quietly in a relaxing place, imagine, what could I do? That's why you feel guilty. You know, in retrospect, you already know what you could do in that situation. You could say to yourself, oh, hey, that guy that cut me off, maybe his wife's dying and he's rushing to the hospital. Maybe his girlfriend broke up with him last night and he hasn't had any sleep and he's just not himself. Who knows? And or you could just say, hey, he made a mistake, he did something stupid, but if I get frustrated about it, it's not going to do anything. Becoming angry is like us swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die. I think it was Buddha that said that, not me. Someone like that. So but you can see the point that it really is. It's all these emotional chemicals that cause us harm, and it doesn't actually benefit us. It's in today's day and age, in this society, it doesn't achieve anything except to get you in trouble and disappoint you in your own behaviour. So once I've imagined then a more productive outcome of what I could have done, then I also try to imagine the positive outcomes that come from behaving in that way. You know, if I behave in that way, then my kids are going to be have a great role model for if they're in the back of the car. My partner might be, I'll feel a lot safer. My family might be happier at the way I'm, turning over a new leaf. And there's always a lot of these positive outcomes. And by briefly imagining those for a moment, you're helping to reinforce the subconscious mind. Because this part of the brain at the front here is called the frontal lobe. It's bigger in humans than in any other animal. It concerns our personality, our morals, our decision making, our focus, concentration. And so humans have, a bit more of that than animals. That part shuts down. We don't become ourselves. We become this part that's animalistic in the back here, the midbrain and the subbrain, and that is like that of a 2-year-old. We act automatically. So that's what we're trying to train that part of the brain by giving it, examples of how we can behave and how good that would be for us. And by doing this in a meditative, relaxed state, it's helping to access that on more levels, especially if you're thinking of it in terms of, the sights, sounds, smells, touches, and tastes of that environment. Because anytime you're thinking of something from all of those different senses, it's firing off in all different places in the brain. So it becomes more likely. It's like, doing a weightlifting exercise 15 times instead of twice. You're getting the brain to go over and over the same thing in more detail, become more thorough, and therefore more effective. So then if you just want to move on to taking a few more deep breaths, and when you're ready, starting to open up your eyes, look around you, and move forward with the rest of your day. It's taking me a little while to explain that, but it's really only going to take you a couple of minutes to achieve it. So, it will not happen without practice. There's no way you can go into a gym and work out for a couple of hours and come out like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He trained for 5 hours a day, every day, for many years. So, the only way to overcome automatic habits is to overwrite them with a new way of being. I hope that helps. Please comment and let me know your thoughts so that we can do some future videos with more detail. And thank you for your time. Good luck.